Hidden deep within the meandering Pawpaw bends of the Potomac River, where the relentless water draws the jagged line between Maryland and West Virginia, there lies a stretch of railroad nearly forgotten by time, yet monumental in American engineering history. Here, along the modern-day CSX Cumberland division between Orleans Crossroads and Pawpaw, West Virginia, stands the legendary Magnolia Cutoff. Built by the nation's oldest railroad, the Baltimore and Ohio, this remarkable piece of infrastructure was born in an age when technological advancement wasn't just progress, it was pride. Railroads then were as much about prestige as they were about profit. The B&O's East End, stretching between Weverton and Cumberland, posed no small challenge. Geography, operations, and finances each fought back. At Cumberland, a sprawling terminal at the heart of the system, two double-track main lines from Connellsville, Pennsylvania, and Grafton, West Virginia funneled into a single route eastward. By 1910, the pressure became too much. Traffic had surged by 25% in just 3 years, stretching the line to its operational limits. What the Patterson Creek Cutoff had once helped alleviate was now not enough. The B&O, ever pragmatic and ever ambitious, studied 4 bold options. They were temporarily laying a third track along the existing line, keeping the eastbound helper grade intact, constructing a 4-track main line maintaining the present grade, building an entirely new 4-track mainline cutoff abandoning the original grade, and creating a 2-track eastbound grade cutoff leaving the existing mainline for westbound traffic. In the end, it was the 4th option, a delicate balance of cost, operational efficiency, and bold engineering that won the day. Thus, the Magnolia Cutoff was born. On March 13, 1913, construction was officially authorized. With an estimated cost of $6 million, more than 2,400 men took to the rugged hills, living in camps strung along the right-of-way, building something that would outlast them all. Our journey begins in Pawpaw, West Virginia, a quiet town with a name as rustic as its landscape. Named for the wild fruit that grows in abundance here, Pawpaw was formally incorporated on April 8, 1891 by the Circuit Court of Morgan County, West Virginia. Long before the town's official charter in 1836, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Company had begun work on a tunnel nearby, a project aimed at cutting 7 miles of navigation off along the unpredictable Potomac River. The work was grueling. Men of English, Welsh, German, and Irish descent braved rockfalls, disease, riots, and persistent financial troubles. By 1850, with over 6 million bricks laid and 3,118 foot of tunnel carved by hand tools and black powder, the tunnel, along with the canal, stood complete to Cumberland. The canal, though, would see hard times. A strike in 1922, followed by a devastating flood in 1924, ended operations that same year. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad was chartered on July 4, 1827, and had written its own history by the time the canal went under. Building west from Baltimore, by 1838 track crews were building through the region, and by 1842 the rails reached Cumberland, making it for a time the westernmost point on the B&O system. When the Civil War came, the B&O found itself in the crossfire of a divided nation. Control of the line changed hands many times. Pawpaw, nestled amid it all, became a Union stronghold, hosting more than 15,000 soldiers at Camp Chase under the command of Brigadier General Frederick W. Lander. With the creation of West Virginia in 1863, this vital artery of commerce and war remained firmly in Union control until Appomattox. After the war, the B&O turned again to modernization, but the post-war boom brought new problems. Space for additional tracks between Hancock and Pawpaw ran out, especially at Doe Gully, where the double track constricted into a single-track tunnel. Financial constraints delayed action, but by 1914, the cutoff was open. Just west of Pawpaw, the new interlocking plant tied the cutoff to the original main line. Controlled first by NO Tower at Oconoco, then later by FN Tower at Patterson Creek, the old main line was abandoned in 1961, creating a new problem, a gap in milepost numbering. The B&O, always cost-conscious, chose not to renumber the line. Today, westbound trains exiting Carruthers Tunnel can gain 7 miles in just over 5,000 feet of travel. Carruthers Tunnel stands as a monument to the B&O's chief engineer D.D. Carruthers, who served from 1904 to 1909. At 996 feet in length and requiring 8,000 cubic yards of concrete, Carruthers Tunnel, like its neighboring bores, lies parallel to the now abandoned original main line. Fittingly, all 4 tunnels along the Magnolia Cutoff bear the names of B&O chief engineers, a quiet tribute to the minds that carved the best and only through the mountains. At Kessler's Curve, the scale of the project becomes undeniable. Here, more than 80,000 cubic yards of rock were removed from the hills rising between 40 and 100 feet above the original mainline. To control the slope and stabilize the hillside, an 1,800-foot-long retaining wall was built, what railroaders still call the Great Wall. Rising 31 feet above its footing and 15 feet wide at its base, the wall consumed 22,000 cubic yards of concrete. Throughout the cutoff's construction, two challenges loomed large: keeping traffic flowing and ensuring the new line could cross the old one at two critical points, Walnut Grove Cemetery and Magnolia. At Kessler's, the first of two massive steel bridges, built by the American Bridge Company using steel from Bethlehem Steel, spanned the valley. Today, the area goes by both names, Kessler's and Walnut Grove. Beside the west end of the bridge lies the cemetery where generations of the Kessler family rest, their lives forever tied to the land and the railroad. Graham Tunnel marks the only point along the cutoff that lies within the state of Maryland. At 1,580 feet in length and lined with 22,000 cubic yards of concrete, the tunnel sits between two sweeping Potomac River bridges. The tunnel was named for James M. Graham, chief engineer from 1899 to 1904, a man who left his mark on both the old main line and the cutoff itself. After his B&O tenure, Graham left for the Erie Railroad, rising to the rank of vice president. The town of Magnolia carries a name born of family, a blend of Maggie and Nora, the daughters of early settler Timothy Norton. Though tiny, Magnolia played an outsized role in the B&O's plans. By the late 1830s, it was home to Water Station No. 12, one of many along the route between Weverton and Cumberland. By 1911, the B&O had begun buying up land in the Pawpaw Pens, knowing that the cutoff's alignment would forever change this place. During construction, Magnolia became a hive of industry, powered by a massive generating plant capable of producing 200 kilowatts. The new line would scale above the town, crossing the Potomac on a 1,000-foot-long bridge standing 80 feet above the river's low water mark. Magnolia School closed in 1952. Its post office, first named Magnolia Vale, then Magnolia, shut down in 1943. Residents were reassigned Pawpaw addresses, another quiet chapter closing. By the 1960s, with the B&O under Chesapeake and Ohio control, the original main line was abandoned. The Western Maryland Railway would soon follow, leaving the cutoff as the sole railroad through this isolated country. Through Chessie System days and then into CSX ownership, the line continues. Nearly $100 million in capital improvements, particularly a new interlocking plant at Magnolia, the cutoff remains a vital artery for American freight. The longest of the cutoff's 4 tunnels, Stewart, gains its name from Francis Lee Stewart, the cutoff's chief engineer and the man who oversaw much of the East End's rebirth. Starting with the B&O at 18, Stewart's career took him from the B&O to the Erie and back again. By 1911, under the presidency of Daniel Willard, Stewart led rehabilitation projects system-wide. At 3,353 feet in length, Stewart Tunnel challenged even the most seasoned crews. Clay layers and thin strata rock made progress slow and dangerous. Ultimately, over 26,000 cubic yards of concrete and 200,000 cubic yards of rock were removed to push the line through. Hansrote, an unincorporated community northeast of Magnolia and southwest of Doe Gully, remains a quiet dot on the map. Accessible only by Hansrote Road off Magnolia Road, it was here that the B&O once faced its steepest eastbound grade between Martinsburg and Cumberland, a 4.7-mile stretch at 0.8%, requiring helper engines to push heavy trains up grade. Curving through a ridge on a sharp 4-degree turn, Randolph Tunnel honors James L. Randolph, B&O's chief engineer from 1863 to 1883. Appointed by President John W. Garrett, Randolph oversaw some of the railroad's most iconic structures, including the Ohio River bridges at Benwood and Parkersburg. At 1,014 feet in length, the tunnel required 8,200 cubic yards of concrete, another testament to the cutoff scale. First double-tracked and then replaced entirely, engineers removed 1.4 million cubic yards of material to create a 4-track wide cut with a maximum depth of 200 feet. To keep trains moving during excavation, crews left a shoulder of earth over the tunnel until the last possible moment. Only when new tracks were laid did they remove the final remnants of the old hill. East of the cut, over 1 million cubic yards of fill created the Doe Gully embankment. 6,000 feet from the cut, this new embankment enabled the gentle westbound grade of 0.4%, a necessary compromise between physics and practicality. At Orleans Crossroads, opposite Little Orleans, Maryland, the East End's original main line and the new cutoff once met. Known on the railroad as Orleans Road Station, the community even hosted its own post office for a time. Later, CSX would rename this location Doe Gully. For decades, the plant was controlled by AD Tower until the mid-1960s when the old main line was finally abandoned. Months of careful planning and daring execution had paid off. The B&O broke a world speed record for tunnel construction here, with each mile of the cutoff costing around $500,000. It took 22 steam shovels, 55 locomotives, 550 dump cars, 6 concrete plants, 116 drills, 2 power plants, and countless hands to carve a new path through the Alleghenies. On December 5, 1914, the Magnolia Cutoff officially opened, coming in $500,000 under budget and ahead of schedule. The new line shaved nearly 6 miles off the original route, eliminated 877 degrees of curvature, and tamed the grades to just 0.5% eastbound and 0.4% westbound. Crews removed nearly 3.5 million cubic yards of earth, poured over 50,000 cubic yards of concrete, and laid over 6 million tons of steel. In time, the cutoff saved the railroad nearly $500,000 a year in operating expenses. For A.W. Thompson, a B&O engineer who spoke before the Engineer Society of Western Pennsylvania in 1914, there was no doubt. The Magnolia Cutoff, he said, was absolutely needed. It was the last great improvement project on the B&O system, and when traffic peaked in 1929, the East End stood ready, without bottlenecks and without delay. As the decades passed, the rumble of trains over the Magnolia Cutoff became more than just the sound of steel on steel. It became the heartbeat of a region defined by endurance. Here, along the quiet bends of the Potomac, where mist clings to the riverbanks at dawn and blue-gray hills stand watch like sentinels, the cutoff endures, its bridges, tunnels, and deep rock cuts a living testament to human resolve. The men who built it, immigrants, laborers, engineers, are long gone. Their names have faded from payroll ledgers and construction rosters, yet their work remains, carved into the Appalachian soil with a kind of permanence they could scarcely have imagined. Through wars, depressions, mergers, and technological revolutions, the cutoff has done what it was built to do: carry the weight and pulse of American industry and a nation. Every day as heavy freights roll over its rails and Amtrak slips through its curves and tunnels, echoes of that 1913 construction season remain. The shovels and drills may be gone now, but the story continues. In each wheel turn and each horn heard drifting across the valley. In a century that has seen railroads rise, fall, and rise again, the Magnolia Cutoff stands not just as an engineering accomplishment, but as a quiet monument to ambition, ingenuity, and the unshakable determination to connect a growing nation, mile by mile, tunnel by tunnel, and bridge by bridge. And so it remains, a line through the mountains, a line through history, and a line for the future.